Hey guys, what's up? This is JRP77 from JGN Games, and I'm back making tutorials. So, hope you guys had a good Christmas break. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So if you read the title, you'll see that this is a rendering primer. So basically, a rendering primer just means that I'm just going to show you the basics of rendering and how you can use rendering to make some cool things. We're going to be diving briefly into materials, not much, but you should be able to do this without knowing much about Blender whatsoever. You shouldn't need to know much about materials or anything like that. Also, my keycaster is somewhat working. If I go ahead and... yeah, it's just... I can't figure out how to get it to work. So, I can't get it. I've been trying for a while. I just can't figure it out. So, I'm just going to quit it. I'm going to try to save my keys. I'm going to actually open up this. I'm just going to keep this, I don't know, right there or so. So you guys should be able to see it. I can't scale it, but you should be able to see it, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to open a new Blender project. Actually, I'm going to move this down here. Because I can scroll on this menu. And so you'll see we're in Blender Render. So let's just go ahead and set up a basic scene. I'm going to hit X to delete this. Hit Shift A. And I'm going to create a plane. And I'm going to scale this up to about the size of this grid. And then I'm going to hit Shift A again. And I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to position it right there. And if I hit 0 to enter the rendering viewport, you'll see that that looks pretty good. But now we need to move. I wanted to make this just a hair smaller. So I'm going to make this cube scale 1.25. Alrighty. That looks good. I apologize, the key thing is really weak. Like you see if I hit G, it just doesn't pop up much, but I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix that. Sorry about that. So now if we hit Shift Z, you'll see that we've got a scene. But you'll see that if I zoom in using my mouse wheel, the shadows are very unrealistic. And so that's what we're going to dive into later, is when we get into cycles. Alright, so now I'm just going to rotate around the scene. You'll see we've got a source up here, a light source up here, but you can't see it in rendered view. So I'm going to hit 0 again. I'll hit Shift Z. And you'll see we got this line right here. If you click on it, that shows us that this is the lamp. I'm going to expand this menu. You'll see that this is the lamp. The lamp is good, but there's a few different types of lamps that Blender render in cycles, and those are the lamp, and if I hit Shift A, you can see that we have the lamp, and inside of it we have point, sun, spot, hemi, and area. If you're going to be using Blender render for any reason, I would suggest using the hemi, or hemi, whatever. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to make this the hemi. Hit Shift Z, and you'll see that it looks good. It gives you a pretty good light, and it's also pretty controllable. You've also got point. Oops. I'm gonna scroll up just a tad, and you'll see that's pretty much what we had. We've got sun, which I would not suggest using in Blender cycles. You've got spot, which is actually pretty cool. You can use spot for a lot of things, and you've got area, which basically just lights your entire scene. But you can see that these shadows are so unrealistic, and it's actually quite annoying. And that's the problem with using Blender Render. So, your options for lamps are pretty limited, but there is a solution. I'm going to delete this lamp, and I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh Plane, and I don't remember if I can do this in here or not, but I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to turn on Emit to 1. Now if I hit Shift Z, you'll see that it does absolutely nothing. I'm going to rotate this on the X 90, 180, and you'll see there is a way I know you can do this, but for some reason it doesn't like me. I cannot get it to emit, even when you click the, I mean, you can get it to emit quite a lot, it's just, you can't really, I haven't figured it out yet. You can do, but it's okay. This isn't something I would do, I would not use this to make the shader. I would definitely not use Blender Render to render anything, just because you have so little options for how you can make light your scene, and it really bugs me. So that's Blender Render. Let's making the materials and stuff and emission. Let's jump into rendering. Rendering, those things are pretty similar except for one key feature. With Blender Internal, you get the basic stuff. You get the 1920 by 1080, you can set your quality, you can set your aspect ratio. If you're doing animation, you can set your frame rate and stuff over there. You can even anti-alias. You have motion blur, and the motion blur actually works really well. You can set your shading and stuff, your performance, post-processing, etc. But the one thing you don't have is control over quality. And if you've seen my Blender Internal versus Cycles video, I kind of talk about that it doesn't really do well because you can't control quality. You'll get really fast renders, but you won't get very good renders. So I'm going to show you guys how you can get better renders using Cycles. Dun dun dun! Cycles is amazing. Cycles has so many features. It's got all those features you get, but you also get stuff like metadata. You can set where all your files output. You can even set, this is the most important thing, this is the sampling. Sampling is one of the most important parts of Cycles because it determines your quality. So if I have a render of 10, and I'm going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to add a Hemi lamp, and I'm just going to move it up, Shift Z, just so you can see what it's going to look like. Also, you can see the shadows are more realistic. I'm going to rotate this on the Y, 45, so I get a few shadows. Like that. I'm hit 0, and I've hit FN. If I hit F12 to render, you'll see that it renders slower than it would in Blender Internal. The shadows are very realistic though. You can even see that because of the light, we're getting this white reflection right there. But you'll see if I zoom in, look at all that noise, and that's one of the things that Blender in Cycles does that's better than Blender Internal, because I can bump this all the way up to 100, and then if I hit F and F12, well, I'm using a Mac, so I have to do that, you can see that you get a much more higher quality render. Now you can see there's a few jagged edges right there, but that's just because of how I've lit it. So you can even, I can even bump the quality up to 100%, and if I render, and if I escape that render and render again, you can get some pretty good results. And you zoom in, you get the noise again, but the more samples you have, the better your render is. I'm going to escape so it doesn't take forever. I'm also going to set this back to 50. This is your quality right here, not 150. Alrighty. I don't know why I have that giant edge right there. Huh, weird. Alrighty, so now how can we light our scene better? Because right now you can see that it's okay, but it's kind of boring, and we don't have much control over it. You can do color and stuff like that. You can tint it and stuff, and that's okay, but you don't really have a ton of options to work with. You have strength in Cycles, and so how can we play around with this? Well, my friend, glad you asked. So there is a way that you can light your scene better, and that is with nodes. So I'm going to hit Shift C, and I'm going to delete this lamp. You'll see even with no light, there is ambient light, and you can go here, and you can set all kinds of stuff for your ambient light, which is really nice. You can see even set ambient occlusion if you want to, but I prefer to have that off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my compositing window right here. And I'm going to go to Material, and first I need to add an object. I completely forgot, so I'm going to go back into Default View, and I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh Plane. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to rotate it on the Y 90 degrees. This is going to be our light source, and I'm going to scale it on the Z, and I'm going to scale it on the Y, so that I get this nice bar right here. And I'm going to move it just off the scene right there. Now, when I've got this object selected, I'm going to go up here to Compositing. I'm going to create a new material. And if you've seen nodes before, this should be no surprise. Basically, this is your output, and these are all your inputs. Anything on the right side of the node is your output, and anything on the left side is your inputs. Alright, so let's just get rid of this diffuse, because we won't be needing it. I'm going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to add a shader, emission. I use this node all the time because it's so powerful. I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to drag this onto surface. Now if I hit Shift Z down here, you'll see that we automatically get this realistic looking light. I can bump this up to 10, and you'll see that we can make it look even better. With a few playing around, I'm going to keep this at 10. I'm going to go back into default, and we hit Shift D, and I'm going to rotate this on the Z axis 90 degrees, and I'm going to move this out right here, just like this. Make sure it's off camera, because you'll see if I put it on camera, it does in fact emit light. But I can move this back, and if I go back into compositing, you'll see that down here, we've got this really nice looking render. But I don't want it that big right there. I want it to be slightly darker on this side, because the main light source is coming from here. I don't want the light to be even all the way around. So I'm going to change this one to 5, and that changes both of them. So I'm going to hit 10 again, and then I'm going to click this plus button right here. So I add a new material. And now on this one, I'm going to get rid of this. Oh, I hate when it. I'm going to get rid of this diffuse node, add a shader, emission, and I'm going to put this on surface again, and I'm going to set this to 5. Usually doing half works, but sometimes, like in this scene, 2.5 works. A quarter of it would work too. And so just like that, we have a much more well-lit scene. I mean, you can't see the top, so what you could do is you could just duplicate, not that. You could duplicate this, and then you could rotate on the Y, X 90 degrees, and put it right up there, and it automatically just looks better. It looks realistic. You can see that, you can tell that the light source is right there, but you can also tell that there's some reflection of the light around it. And that's really cool. And if you hit F12 to render, you can see that the quality looks much better. Again, you have noise. Noise is a weird thing. You can always set a seed for the noise so you can randomize how it is. But because I've got quality at 50%, it's just not, it's looking this really noisy. But that's a really easy way to get that. I mean, put a skybox back there. You can even light with environment textures. If I go over here to the world, you'll see that the surface, we can actually use nodes, because Cycles uses this. So if I hit escape right here, you can see that ambient light is determined by this. You can set, go to use nodes, and you could go over here to your compositing. I don't have one of these. And you can actually, this is not the one I'm talking about, but you could, where is it? The world. You can actually go, let's just go get an image. Texture, image texture, and drop this in on the color. You'll turn the skybox pink. But then you can go over here, and I'm just going to go looking for an image. I don't have a good image. I mean, I'm just going to use this. And you can, this is like a grayscale image. It's not mapped to anything. You can even map it, but you can already see that it's starting to affect it. So if I render this again, you'll see my render result down here is much more different than it is, because it's got that brown ambient occlusion. I can set this to non-color data or something like that. A bunch of stuff you can play around with. And yeah, you probably not use a texture like I am. You probably have to change something, but that looks good for the time being. So that's basically all you need to know. Where'd it go? Oh well. That's basically all you need to know for rendering. I mean, it's not that hard. Rendering is it's more of playing around with it and getting used to it than it is, I don't know, actually using it. So once you get your stuff down, I mean, like these lights right here, I mean, that's what I use for everything. And you can even save this project and import your own object in and still be able to use it. That's a nice thing. If you watched our how to make a BB-8 tutorial, that's exactly the setup I used. I used a light on the side, a light in front, and we got a really good result. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to check out some of our other tutorials on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and then also don't forget to follow us on social media: Instagram, Twitter, Google+. Instagram is at JGN_games, Twitter is at JGN Games, and Google+ is JGN Games. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.